Hello, today's video is all about my first trimester. In my last video I told you that my husband and I were expecting our first baby, and so many of you completely overwhelmed me with your support and love, so thank you so much. Our kid is literally going to be the most beloved kid out there because so many of you are sending positive vibes, so thank you so much. So today, right now, I'm 15 weeks and 5 days or 4 days, something like that. But I'm only filming this first trimester update now because I only started feeling better quite recently, so here we go. And the next one is going to be at week 18, so between weeks 14 and 18. I'm going to do them every 4 weeks. So let's get started. I found out that I was pregnant when I was around 4 weeks and 4 days or something like that. And at that point I had no clue that I was pregnant apart from a missing period, of course, and I had 0 symptoms. I felt completely normal, and that lasted until 5 weeks and 4 or 5 days. So I was really full of energy. I felt almost like a superhuman, and I remember around 5 weeks my husband and I went on a hike. It's the one I shared with you in my last what I eat in a day video. And I felt amazing. I felt so light, so full of energy, so full of life. It was amazing. And at that point I was so naive because I thought that if I went into the pregnancy journey with a really positive mindset and positive expectations, I was going to get a really positive experience out of it. I thought it was all up to my mindset, which now that I look back I realize how naive it was. At 5 weeks it was simply too early to feel anything much. Just before 6 weeks, all the nightmarish symptoms started. I started feeling nauseous all day long, non-stop, and that lasted for exactly 7 weeks, all the way until week 13. My husband actually had to go on a trip just before week 13 to visit his family in Italy, and he had to stay at home because honestly I felt too sick. I couldn't even cook my own food. I couldn't even come to the kitchen. I couldn't open the fridge. All the smells in the kitchen were driving me crazy. I just couldn't look after myself, so he had to stay with me. And once the nausea started, 3 days later, at 6 weeks, we had to go to Madrid for a 6-day holiday, which I was really looking forward to. But when I started feeling so rubbish, I was so worried because I thought, what if I feel really sick on the plane? What if I feel too sick to enjoy the trip, or to go around exploring? I was so worried. But surprisingly, I didn't feel too bad because I noticed that when I was really excited or anxious about something, like for example getting on a plane or seeing a new city that I've never seen before, that made me almost completely forgot my nausea, so it was actually a good thing. So in the first 3 days in Madrid I felt a little bit dodgy, but I felt more or less okay, and I could walk all day long and I had energy and everything was fine. And then on the last 3 days of the trip I started really struggling. I felt sick all the time, which wasn't helped by the fact that we spent the majority of the day in the car traveling around looking at all the places where we would like to move in the future. So I felt so tired as well, and at that point I really felt like I had to force myself to go out and explore because, to be honest, all I wanted to do was just stay in bed and sleep. So it was quite difficult. And I had quite an interesting experience. On the last day in Madrid, on the way to the airport, we were on the underground train and we were standing because it was packed and it was really hot, and I was just sweating because we were running, we were kind of late. And this Chinese lady gave up her seat for me, and I was like, but why? And she was like, oh, but aren't you pregnant? I thought you were pregnant, sorry. And I told her, yes, I am, but I'm only 7 weeks, so how do you know? I didn't have any belly or anything. And she said that she was 28, so she was mature enough to understand. She simply felt it. She knew that I was pregnant. That was so crazy, but so needed and so appreciated because I was really tired and I really needed a seat. So then we came back to our home, and literally from the next day my nausea became 100 times worse and I got seriously tired, and from then on I was really struggling, and it felt like it would never finish. I would never feel good again. And having gone through major thyroid issues and Hashimoto's and feeling extremely tired. I think it's natural to have those kind of feelings like, what if it's all coming back? What if I'm never going to feel better? What if I'm sick again? It's a really scary time. And then at around week 11 or 12, the nausea actually started getting even worse. I couldn't even brush my teeth or my tongue without gagging and nearly throwing up. So in week 11 and week 12 is when I got the closest to throwing up. But I didn't actually throw up once, thank God, because I have such a phobia of throwing up. But the nausea was relentless, super strong. I was always on the verge of throwing up, and it lasted all day long. Thankfully, I didn't feel nauseous at night, which let me sleep like a normal person, so that was really good. Now, food aversions, I had some really interesting ones. So while we were in Madrid on holiday, we ate a lot of sandwiches because, you know, in order to save money. So when we came back, honestly, I couldn't even look at bread anymore. So I had a very strong aversion to bread for quite a while. But then we started making sourdough bread again after a little break after the trip. And somehow little by little I got into bread again. So now I can eat it no problem, but it was maybe a month or so of me getting sick just by smelling bread in the cupboard. It wasn't fun because bread is probably the favorite thing in the world for me. Another version is chocolate, and this is still going strong. So when we came back from the holiday, we brought lots of beautiful handmade chocolate from Toledo, and I couldn't eat any of it, and I still can't eat any of it. It's still waiting for me there in the cupboard. But when I think of chocolate, I just feel sick and I really don't want it. So I guess my body doesn't need it at this point. I also had a really weird aversion to teas, herbal teas or any warm drinks. Now I can drink warm drinks, but I still can't drink any peppermint tea or chamomile tea. The only one I can drink at this point is linden blossom tea. Everything else just makes me nauseous, makes me feel really weird. So that is definitely a very weird aversion for a real tea lover. Also anything acidic like lemon juice or orange juice, yogurt, even if it's a little bit more acidic, would also make me feel more nauseous and make me feel really weird, and I really didn't crave that kind of food at all. Also sweets. I generally don't eat sweets, I don't like them, but when we came back from our holiday in Spain, we brought back some amazing handmade marzipan, and I couldn't even eat them. They made me so sick, so my husband ended up eating the whole box. So pretty much everything we brought back from the trip, I had to just put aside because I couldn't eat it. So that was quite sad. And then together with nausea, I also had really strong fatigue. I was tired all the time, but I wasn't exactly sleepy. I didn't really want to sleep. I was just really tired. I wanted to just chill on the bed and do nothing. Also because not moving, lying down, actually helped my nausea a lot. And if I stood up and moved around, I was just getting dizzy and more nauseous. So I tried to just lay still, not moving as much as I could. And also headaches. I had pretty much constant headaches all the time. Not strong, but very kind of annoying, low-grade headaches. They're chronic, and they just make you feel like as if you are poisoned, or more precisely as if you're having a very strong hangover. So that definitely wasn't fun. Now talking about other symptoms, my boobs started feeling sore around the same time as all my nausea symptoms started, and that subsided towards week 11 or 12, so towards the end of the first trimester. But they didn't swell or get bigger. My boobs are exactly the same as usual. I didn't get any kind of extra veins either, so no changes in that department at all. Another interesting symptom I noticed was really weird digestion. So everything really slowed down. I didn't have constipation. I was still regular every single day. I was more on the loose side, but I used to eat something and then I could feel that food just sitting in my stomach for hours and hours and hours. If it was something heavier like meat, it would probably just stay there for 12 hours easily. But even just drinking an orange juice, I made a mistake once. I drank it and it was awful because I kept burping it up for the next 8 hours, literally. It was awful. But everything, even the lightest food, even a piece of fruit, would stay there for 2-3 hours and I would feel it. And the slowing down of digestion is completely normal during pregnancy. That's to make sure that your body is able to absorb more nutrients, because if the food moves through the digestive system slower, more nutrients get absorbed. So that's completely normal, but at the same time it's quite annoying. And the lovely burps. I kept burping, I still burp, not as much as before, but I still feel these weird burps. So that is also one of the most common symptoms of pregnancy, as far as I know. I had really weird stools. They were kind of on the loose side, either quite loose or a little bit shapeless, and also there was a lot of mucus in there and a lot of undigested food. So my digestive system was just obviously not happy, very kind of irritated, and sometimes random foods were suddenly upsetting my stomach. I was getting like stomach cramps or pangs. It was really weird. And as soon as the first trimester finished, all of it went away completely, and now my stools are back to normal. So it's incredible what hormones can do, really. I also experienced more hair loss than usual during the first trimester, but again, it's not as common. Most women actually completely get amazing hair, and the hair completely stops falling, but then for others it's like this. In the first trimester it's quite normal, so I didn't worry about it too much. Together with the nausea, I also experienced a complete loss of my appetite. In fact, a few days before the nausea started, I noticed that I didn't want to eat at all, but I was not nauseous, so I didn't know what was going on. But basically for 7 weeks or so, I didn't want to eat at all. I had to force myself to eat, and food wasn't pleasant at all. Also, my stomach seemed to be shrunk, like so small, almost like bird size, so that if I ate, let's say 2 spoons of something, those 2 spoons would taste good, and then the 3rd spoon would just be disgusting. So I had to eat small amounts often. Another very worrying symptom that I had was that I couldn't drink. I was getting so nauseous just from drinking anything, and everything tasted so bad. Water tasted absolutely disgusting. I tried water with a bit of lemon, it was just as disgusting. Freezing water, cold water was disgusting. Warm water was even more disgusting. Room temperature water was disgusting. Everything was disgusting. I read that sometimes diluting the water with some juice could help, so I sent my husband to the shops looking for apple juice, which he struggled to find because here in Spain it's not very common, but I managed to find it. And that saved me for a few days, because water with some apple juice somehow was a little bit more palatable to me. And that went on for 7 weeks. I didn't drink more than half a liter or 750 ml a day. I was really worried I would get dehydrated, but I didn't feel dehydrated. My skin wasn't dry. It was all fine. I kept peeing normally, so I wasn't too worried about that. But I normally drink a lot of water, a lot of water. My body's used to it. And at that point, I just couldn't. And another symptom that was really hard was this horrible, sickly sweet taste in my mouth, especially aftertaste after eating something. Even if I ate something completely not sweet, like a piece of meat, my mouth would be so sweet afterwards for hours, and it was so annoying. A lot of women say that they have this metallic taste. I didn't have that. What I had instead was a sickly sweet taste, as if I'd eaten a kilo of sugar, and it was horrible. At one point I thought maybe my sugar was high, but then I checked it and it was actually really low, close to the bottom of the range. So I had no idea what was going on, but at the end of the first trimester it completely went away, thank God. Now, talking about very, very common pregnancy symptoms that I thankfully didn't get, there were quite a few, and I was quite surprised. I didn't actually get bloated at all, which is really weird, because for the first 14 weeks of pregnancy I had a completely flat belly, flatter than ever in my life, which was really weird, because that's not supposed to happen during early pregnancy, where usually women get a lot of bloating, but I get zero. It was totally flat, and I believe it's all due to the acupuncture that I started doing at the beginning of my pregnancy. That really helped. And at the same time, I didn't get any kind of swelling, no water retention. And again, I think it's all due to the acupuncture. It really helped me in that department. I had zero insomnia issues. I have been sleeping like a log, and I still do. I also had zero breakouts. I was actually surprised how incredible my skin looked. Even though I wasn't eating, I was super sick, I was super tired. My cheeks were rosy, my skin was glowy, no spots at all. I was, what the hell is going on? Pregnancy is seriously amazing for my skin so far, and I hope it will continue like this. And also I didn't experience any kind of moodiness or bitchiness at all. But then at the same time, I'm not the kind of person to generally be moody anyway. I might get sad and a little bit depressed if I'm in a bad mood, but I will never lash out on people or be aggressive. So that's not really part of my personality, so that didn't change. I definitely do notice that I'm a bit more emotional, and by that I mean is that it's easier for me to cry if I watch a movie or even just thinking about something. Like the other day, I remember that it was that we had missed a 1-year anniversary of our baby Vanessa's death, and I started crying. And normally I wouldn't cry about something like this, but I did, and I couldn't stop it. Now towards the end of my first trimester, around week 13, all those symptoms that I talked about completely subsided. They went away, and I was so grateful for that. But then I got a few new ones instead. So the first one is that I started getting my left ear blocked, and I think that's because of the excess mucus in the sinuses that I've been getting. So that's a little bit annoying, but I found a good trick. If I lie down on the bed on the opposite side, all of that excess mucus just drains out, and then my ear gets unclogged. So that really helps, and that lasted for around 2 weeks. Thankfully now it seems to be gone, because honestly it's really uncomfortable to talk, especially to make videos when you can't hear anything with one ear. It's really weird, so I hope it's not going to come back. Another symptom that turned up is hay fever. I haven't had it for many months, but a couple of weeks ago it came back. Congestion in the nose and things like that are very common in pregnancy, so I'm not too surprised, but it seems to be getting under control now, so fingers crossed the worst is over. And the last interesting symptom that started around week 13 as well is tailbone pain. I think the growing uterus is probably pressing on some nerve in the, what is that called? I think it's the sacrum bone or something like this, just above the tailbone. Because generally I don't feel anything, but if I bend down and then I'm kind of straightening up again, or if I turn the wrong way, if I'm bending down, let's say making a bed, things like that, it hurts. And the pain is very sharp, as if kind of like knives would be going into my spine. So that's why I think it's a nerve pain. But I noticed that in the last few days it's been getting better. So hopefully as the uterus is growing higher in my abdomen, that pain is going to go away. And I'm going to go and see my acupuncturist soon as well. So hopefully she can do something for that too. I haven't been exercising since I got really nauseous. So at that point I couldn't even go for walks more than once or twice a week, which is really hard for me because I'm used to go every single day, once or twice. But since I started feeling better, I started going out every single day again, and so walking for now is my #1 exercising. But I'm planning to go back to light weightlifting and my normal exercises, yoga, Pilates, things like that. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I'm sure that's also going to help me get rid of that annoying tailbone pain. Now let's talk about my experiences with the doctors and midwives so far, which is interesting because I'm not the greatest fan of going to doctors or going to hospitals. I actually have something called the white coat syndrome. I get extreme anxiety, almost panic attacks when I'm facing doctors, which isn't funny when they're trying to take your blood pressure. So I went to see my midwife for the first time when I was 9 weeks, and I didn't like her as a person. We just didn't click, didn't connect at all. I could just feel the way she was looking at me. I just felt that she was judging me. So definitely not much love between us, which doesn't help, as I said, when it comes to measuring my blood pressure. So it was 135 by 85 both times I went to see her. And that's kind of on the border of being high, because 140 by 90 would already be high blood pressure. So that's not very good. And then when we went for the first scan at week 12, they did the screening for genetic abnormalities and preeclampsia. For genetic abnormalities, everything's perfect. And then for preeclampsia, I was really scared, obviously, because we were going for the first scan. I had no idea if the baby was going to be okay. And plus, I was really scared of the doctors. They insisted on doing the internal scan, which I hated so much. And that really stressed me out. So my blood pressure was 153 by 105, pretty high. I told you I get really, really stressed out when I'm facing doctors. Then they tried again after the scan and it was still high, still the same. So they told me to go out into the corridor and relax for 10 minutes and then come back and try again. I came back and it was 135 by 85, just like with a midwife, so borderline. The thing is, for the preeclampsia screening, they used the average of all three. So it came out too high and I got flagged for high preeclampsia risk, the risk of 1 out of 19, which is around 5%, which is fine because on average around 5% of women get preeclampsia anyway. But then I started measuring my blood pressure at home twice a day, every single day, and I realized that my blood pressure was actually low, very low, somewhere between 105, 104 to 118 and 62 to 72, things like that. So it's just absolutely perfect. And I realized that everything is really just to the white coat syndrome. My mom has exactly the same thing. So next time I go to see my midwife, I'm just going to bring my sheet with all my blood pressure readings and hopefully she'll leave in peace, because otherwise they were insisting on me going to do lots of more tests, and then I would be labeled as high risk pregnancy and I would have to have ultrasounds every single month, which I really would like to avoid because I don't think that monthly ultrasounds are healthy for the baby. Unless, of course, it's completely necessary when there was real risk, but at this point there's no risk. So I decided to just stick to what I know, to the fact that my blood pressure is absolutely normal, and I'm going to keep checking it every single day and everything should be okay. Also had my first trimester blood test done at week 12 and everything was fine. Hemoglobin was close to the bottom of the range, but obviously I had been starving for 2 months at that point, so it was quite normal. And also my TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, was at 5.3, which is way higher than normal for me. But again, bear in mind that I was pretty much lying in bed, not moving much at all for 2 months. I was completely unfit. I had been starving, not eating enough. I'd been losing weight. I lost 3 kilos during the first trimester. So my body was really struggling and my thyroid was obviously struggling as well. Plus the baby takes all your thyroid hormones during the first trimester as well, because it doesn't have its own thyroid yet. So I wasn't too worried about that because my FT4, the actual thyroid hormone level, was perfectly in the middle of range, and that's what counts for the baby. The baby uses the T4 for its own needs. So I decided to just, get back to moving, exercising, eating normally, and then retest again in January, and hopefully everything is going to be okay. And also, as soon as I got pregnant, my doctor told me to take extra iodine because apparently most women here are iodine deficient, which really, now that I think about it, really blew my mind, because I thought that just living on an island in the middle of the ocean, we're naturally getting more iodine than we need, but apparently that's not the case. But at that point, I ignored her words. I didn't get more iodine. And I think that's probably the main reason why my thyroid started struggling, because when you're pregnant, you actually need almost double the amount of iodine because the baby needs a lot for the development. And I think my body was just really starting to run out of iodine because we weren't really eating many foods with iodine. We don't use iodized salt, so I realized that I might be a little bit short. So I started taking a prenatal, and I looked for the best one I could find, the most natural one with food-based ingredients, and the one I'm taking is from Mega Food, Baby and Me 2. And to be honest, it's the first multivitamin I've ever taken in my life that hasn't broken me out, and it hasn't caused any kind of anxiety or sleep issues, which is amazing. It's seriously been working so well for me. It has a little bit of iron, which should help my hemoglobin for the next blood test, and it also has 150 micrograms of iodine, which is perfect for me, because I know from experience that anything over 250 micrograms actually slows my thyroid function down, while 150 speeds it up and helps it. And literally 2 days after I started taking it, I felt like a brand new person. I was full of energy again. I wasn't dizzy anymore. I felt completely normal. So that's really great. I think my body was really lacking something. Also, I take that in the morning, and then in the evening I take some extra copper, 2 milligrams of my favorite Solarate copper, because the multivitamin has very, very, very tiny amount of copper, which isn't enough to balance the amount of zinc that is in there. So these two have really transformed me, and I feel great now. And I think my body was just really lacking some extra copper, iodine and iron. My next midwife appointment will be at 18 weeks, and that's on the 17th of December. And she said that at that point we're going to try to hear the baby's heartbeat for the first time with the Doppler. So I can't wait to hear that, because that's really the best sound in the world, isn't it? And talking about my baby bump, up until maybe literally up until week 15 there was nothing at all. That's why I didn't show it to you in the pregnancy announcement video, because there was nothing to show. But a couple of days ago, so around 15 weeks and 3 days, something started popping out. I felt a lot of stretching pains for a couple of days before that. I just felt like the belly was starting to get out of the pelvis and to pop out, and from one day to another it literally did. So now I have a bit of a belly, and it's nice. I've been waiting for it. So here you go. Not much, but I can definitely see it popping out at the bottom of my pelvis. And it definitely feels much rounder and much harder at the bottom. I love it. And here's what it looks like from the front. Can't really see much yet. I've also been applying some kind of an oil on it every single day, as well as on my back, my sides, but the top of my thighs and my boobs, and that should hopefully prevent any kind of stretch marks, although my mom didn't have any, so hopefully I'm not going to get them. Regarding diet, is all pretty much the same, with a couple of things that I avoid, but I'm definitely going to make a what I eat in a day pregnancy edition video soon. So I will talk about that there. And for now, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, thank you so much for all your love and support in my previous pregnancy video. I will see you in my next one.